Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn a little bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one of getting all the insight. Just like today, the 2nd of August 2021, we have just finished the month of July. Now, I was expecting information updates from the state of Queensland this morning, but obviously if you've been following the news, you notice that Queensland is under a lockdown due to the current outbreaks from some high school, and kids under 10 or something are getting contracted to this virus. So unfortunately, I think there will be delay, certainly, because this morning I've been tracking on updates from the state of Queensland, but obviously there's no update. However, I did receive an email from the state of Tasmania. So in this video, I'll be updating you with all the upcoming new criteria for the state of Tasmania of its skill migration. So let's jump in and have a look. As you notice, this is my email I've just received, as the topic said 2021-22 skill migration program update for the state of migration Tasmania. And as you see, this is only 3 hours ago, and the reason I haven't done it for the past 3 hours is because it's Monday. I've been too busy to updating all the stuff. I need to answer all the comments and emails, and some of the works generally accumulate over the weekend. So let's have a look what it is, and I'll take you into the actual website and see the contents of the new criteria. So basically they're saying 2 days later, which is gonna be Wednesday, starting from 12 p.m, which is noontime. I believe that will be noontime in Tasmania. That would be the same as Sydney and Melbourne and rest of the eastern border of Australia. So 4th of August, they'll start that. And on Thursday, the day after, I'm not too sure why they do that, they will have a webinar, Q&A webinar for applicants and agents. So if you wanted to attend, obviously it's actually on the website, I will show you later. Currently they are looking at places for the 2021-22. It's only 2,200 places for the whole year. Now that's not many. That is not many, but obviously it's due to the international travel restrictions. Obviously, they cannot accept offshore or very limited offshore applicants. Now 190 is only 1,100 places. Now I want to take this opportunity to also talk about this. Now a lot of people wanted to say, oh look, I wanted to go to Tasmania, and hopefully I can get something there and migrate there and study there. Now the only thing that I concern is the places for the quota given to the state of Tasmania is very limited. So going there is a good thing, but again, you got to be very bright. You got to ensure that unlike New South Wales, Victoria and Queensland, they get bulk, and South Australia they get a lot of quota places, but Tasmania, obviously the economy there is very small compared to all the other states and territories in Australia, so obviously they got less quota, and so you got to be aware of that. Change in nomination, so there's graduate category 1. Anyway, I'm gonna go through the whole thing, so you will see the whole bunch of information there. There's also a purpose of priority. Let's read this one here. Can I move that over there? Okay, that's better. The Tasmanian state nomination skill migration program support Tasmanian business increase their state work age population. So the candidate with the employment and skill assessment related critical roles, that will be the priority, the first priority, and candidate with the employment skill assessment related Tasmanian skill occupation list, that's the second, and all the other one is third, and the number 4 is new business owner provide substantial employment opportunity for local Australian citizen. Now that's gonna be hard. I mean, Tasmania was the first state introduced SBO, small business owner, but their requirement is it's just getting harder and harder. I'm not sure if anyone will be interested actually conducting this in Tasmania. All eligible candidate with skill and training relevant needs of Tasmania and who are able to make genuine contribution in the skill employment. So that basically says nothing. Okay. Now those roles include people engaged in direct assistance, COVID response, health. So again, that's the same thing as previous. There's not much of changes there. Let's jump into the actual website and have a look. So obviously you may land yourself in this. If you go Google, you should be able to find yourself in this web page. What you need to do is just punch in TAS, stand for Tasmania, and space migration. You should be able to find yourself here. Now, and you will see this link here. And you might want to click link and just register yourself for Thursday's upcoming webinar. But before that comes, I would like to take the first opportunity to jump in there and look into all these criteria for 190 and 491 for you. So I'm taking ahead of the actual state government of Tasmania. So the web page here is actually quite easy to navigate. As I previously commented, I think Tasmanian government has done a great job in their web design and the navigation compared to the rest of other states. Now obviously Queensland is restructuring their website. Hopefully it will come out much sooner. I'll get that update. So there are, once you're at the first page here, you will see the two selections of 190 and 491. So either one of these, once you click, you will land yourself here. So I'm gonna take you first into the subclass 190. So how you can navigate this is quite simple. The navigation bar is actually on the left, and the middle is the content. So let's read on and we go one by one as they point out with their 7 steps to go through all this. So I think the overview is quite very easily understand. It's the same as before. 190 basically is a state nomination. It gets you into a permanent residency straight away. It's a different to 491, which 491 gives you the temporary 5-year work visa, and you're required to complete 3 years at least with the annual income of the average 53,900, and then you'll be able to transfer yourself into a permanent residency 3 years later under subclass 191. So obviously people would prefer going 190 because you get permanent residence straight away. But again, as you know, the places in quota is halved of what 491. That's because the objective is to get people to stay in regional area. So they don't want people to move. So some people utilize 190. Once they get a permanent residency, they move. They go to big city, Melbourne and Sydney and Brisbane. So that's not the intent of the government of Australia. So how do you apply? Anyway, I'm gonna go through that with you. So let's click next. Okay, now eligibility. As you see here, I'm gonna scroll that over to the middle so everybody can see. Now this is very updated. It's only done it today, so it's very updated information. It's not an outdated or the old information. So watch this one, as this will be similarly used at the webinar where they're gonna explain further. So you can attend that, and if you do have further question, you can raise your question at the webinar from the Tasmania state government, or perhaps you can leave a comment right down below. I can find out the answer for you. Okay, Department of Home Affairs. To be eligible to apply for state nomination, you must meet the following. So this is the same as this federal government. So basically you gotta be under 45. Okay, now let me magnify that a bit. Can you see that? Okay, hold on. That's better. Okay, now you gotta be under 45. You gotta be in the occupation relevant on the relevant list of eligible skill migration. So I'm not gonna click that because it's the same as previous. It basically covers every single occupation. So Tasmania they work the same as Northern Territory. They do not come out with additional. Well, they do have, but that's for a particular stream. But this one basically meant every occupation. Okay, a valid positive skill assessment. Again, I cannot stress that less. If you want to migrate to Australia via skill migration, skill assessment is a mandatory and the first thing that you're required to be done. Okay, I got questioned too many times. People asking me, well, what is my chances of getting this and getting that? Well, my answer, my response back to that is, have you done your skill assessment? And 70% of these queries come back and say, oh, how do I do it? I've got a bunch of playlists on skill assessment. You might want to have a look on that one. Okay, so you need to at least get IELTS 6, so that's company English, and you need to get 65 points. Okay, that includes the 5 point given out by the state from subclass 190. Now, migration Tasmania important, meaning minimum nomination required does not guarantee. So a lot of people, they just want to meet the minimum. However, the system is designed to pick the brightest. So you might want to get as much point as you can to actually win that invite, because the places and quota is limited. Okay, it's limited. Okay. Now the Department of Home Affairs sets nomination quota, so we have gone through that. If you're able to meet minimum requirement and will be competitively assessed against all the eligible applications, so that means they're putting you into a pool with the same occupation, and they basically it's not like lotto. They just shake it and pick it. No, they will see the brightest, they will see the highest point person or applicant, and they will pick them and invite them. That's what they do. So the demand of your skill, particular expertise in reflective employment Tasmania, demonstrate ability to commitment and relevant qualification, background, English, that all comes down to the points that you actually get. So all right, the first category, let's have a look. High caliber subclass 491 category applicant may be considered subclass 190. So very interesting. Now, instead of waiting on, while you're holding a 491 visa, waiting on 191 visa 3 years later, Tasmania is taking an innovative approach whereby they go, all right, if you're good enough, even though you're holding a 491, okay, but however, you get to make I'm not too sure how this will work, because the regulation does bar 491 visa holder to apply 190 within the 3 years. So let's see how that will work. We'll consider applicants who have applied nomination in any of subclass 491 category for subclass 190 if they can demonstrate they have a high caliber candidate, even if they do not meet subclass 190 category requirement. Applicant who believe warrant applicant. Okay, so what they're trying to say is, obviously, is not the 491 visa holders, is who have trying to apply, but they have not been invited yet, and then the Tasmanian government will pick the brightest 491 visa holders and actually given them a substitute 491 with 190. Well, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay, but what is required here? Positive attribute include employment, highly skilled, rare and unique skill, specialist health. So I think this is more than talking about health sector and medical sector. Recent graduate of a TSOL related occupations. So we're gonna take a look into the TSOL, what they actually cover. And yeah, we go on for that one. Now, I recall previous TSOL basically match with PMSOL that covers all the ICT engineers and the medical and health occupations. Employment directly related to nomination occupation. Well, that's pretty sure you need to do that. Employment skill area high demand. Have lived in Tasmania for 2 years or more. So that includes the time that you spend studying in Tasmania. And number three, last bit is extensive resident of Tasmania over 3 years. So these are the attributes that they'll look for. So if you have applied 491, okay, they will check on you, and they probably will substitute what you're trying to apply for 491 with 190. So that's great. Processing any of these do not guarantee again. Okay, important. Please do not email inquire eligibility of high caliber. So they don't want you to call them up. So that's why they open up a webinar, which is great because none of the other state or territory government had actually try or seek a way to communicate with a webinar, but Tasmania. Anyhow, let's have a look later on. Okay, bridging visa holders seeking AAT or federal court review. Okay, Migration Tasmania will accept application from candidates seeking review, visa refusal, cancellation decision, and AAT. However, we will not confirm nomination unless applicant demonstrates reasonable ability to depart Australia, lodge this skill visa application and return. Now, this is very strange. Now, during the past 2 or 3 years, there has been a lot of refusal and cancellation, basically due to the cut down of national quota from 190,000 down to 160,000. Now, they're saying that if you are one of these people, okay, as long as you can manage to leave the country and apply, we will consider. Now, the problem is, if they leave the country, and what happened if Tasmania government does not consider? Interesting. That's what they're trying to say. Evidence of visa will allow entry in New Zealand. So they are utilizing a travel bubble. However, we do know that with the current situation, the travel bubble has already burst. Anyhow, that is a very risky attempt. But if people elect or select or chosen to do, it's really upon their own personal choice. A letter from their current employment acknowledges they by departing, lodging. I think this is going to be extremely hard because the employer, how would an employer agree to let their employee while they are still working fine and pay, doing all the jobs and works, to leave the country and risk of potentially not be able to coming back? Let's see what happened. I think ultimately there would be people really choosing to do that, but highly unrecommended, because in this very changeable moment of time frame of our human history with this virus going on, it's just too risky to do that. Migration Tasmania will not nominate where nominee has not been able to lodge your visa application. So that means you need to get out of Australia, and then we'll nominate you. Okay, and considering at the moment the limitation of airline coming into Australia and the cost of air tickets had tripled. Anyway, see how that happened. Unsuccessful subclass 190 application may be considered for subclass 491. All right, we'll take a look at what 491 offer. Okay, do you currently have any outstanding financial debts? Whew. So make sure you pay your bills and pay your fines if you have drive car, over speed limit, things like that. Okay, now the second one, let's jump into this. A nomination category. Okay, now category number 1, to be considered in category, meet the criteria. If you have commenced your last course of study before June 30, so this is the tactic they're recommending people to go to Tasmania and study in Tasmania. Okay, so you need to meet the study requirements, complete full-time on-site in Tasmania. Now, I wonder if they wanted to explain more about on-site, especially putting on-site. That means online study would not count. Now, how hard is that going to be? It's going to be extremely hard, because how can you start your uni while you get your student visa and cannot travel into Australia? Okay, unlike South Australia, where they don't have this wording on site, so that's a bit of concerning. Have lived and stayed at least 2 years. Obviously, if you're on site, you'll be there 2 years. If you're not currently skilled employed, you must be provide a career plan. Okay, then that's good. Employment is not minimum requirement, so as long as you have those ones, should be fine. Or perhaps if you have completed the last course of study after 30th of June 2021, so that's like today, you know, you must complete a course. So what they're trying to say is, if you have studied before June 30th of 2021, so a couple of days ago, you're required to be on site. Okay, but if you are studying after this time, I don't think on-site will be here. You must complete a course, 92 weeks as usual. That's a student study requirement. Live and stay at least 2 calendar year. Interesting. Now, although they don't use on-site, but how do you live in the state for at least 2 calendar years? So that means at the moment you're online study, okay, and you cannot enter into Australia. But however, next year should be fine. So you entered, and you study a further 1.5 years. You meet the study requirement, but then obviously you haven't lived for 2 years. Then you transfer yourself into 485 visa, and then you continue to live in Tasmania for the further month and to meet that requirement. You are independent, currently living in Tasmania, demonstrate genuine commitment. If you're not currently skill employed, you need to have a career plan. If you hold student visa, student study must be degree qualification in the priority industry training worth. I'm gonna click on that and see what that will actually come out with. If your held visa was not a student visa, so that means you're on a 482 TAS visa, you must be directly related to this. So we'll take a look what that is, and then further on with the international graduate page and things like that. So that's one stream to go. Okay, so the study as becoming a student in Tasmania. All right, and then working in Tasmania. Okay, so nomination category 2. You have been there for at least working 6 months, full time, 35 hours per week. You and your dependent live in there. You must be in the occupation of a TSOL. Let's get a look at that, what that is. And obviously continue to work and live there. Then you will be nominated there. You need to get your employment evidence, business signage, support your application, Tasmania address, and things like that. So I'm gonna go through this information now. Here is some stuff that you're required to just to note it. The internship, scholarship, and volunteer position are not considered. Okay, and those subcontracting were eligible nomination in category 5 SBO. Their area of employment in Tasmania are not supported. So supermarkets, service stations, massage, taxi. That's the same as before. A limited service restaurant will not be. Will include following: fast food takeaway, drinking establishments, a limited service cafe, or pizza takeaway. So that's not gonna. They don't like it. Okay. Now EOI. Now obviously you're required to put in the EOI. So how would this differ to the state of Victoria and state of New South Wales, whereby they require you to put in registration of interest, ROI? Now, does Tasmania require to do that? So expression of interest indicate that you will be able to consider skill. EOI is not a visa application. EOI needs to be lodged, and a way to manage a who can visa a contact at one time. Once you have lodged EOI using skills, you can apply Tasmania government's state nomination through this website. So then you click on that one. So that's same as the ROI. So they're talking about all the required documentation. I'm not gonna go through with all this because that's very generic information. All the forms again, won't stress too much, but find a professional lawyers or agent. Perhaps you wanted to seek out services, that's fine, but I do not support people to lodge by themselves, although you can do a DIY, and that's the reason I put a lot of these video out there, but I just been seeing too many failures on DIY application. I'm not saying there's no success, but a lot of people, they don't understand the law behind a visa application, and they simply waste the money and time there. Okay, so fees or services $220. Then you can apply here. You need to, once you get your EOI done. Now, what you're required to do before EOI is skill assessments, okay, and you get your IELTS done, okay, and then you put your EOI in. And then you come here to get this one done, okay? And then the rest of it is, application process. I'm not gonna go through too much on this one. Let's jump in there and look at the priority industry. So, okay, remember we talked about priority industry for the working in Tasmania in order to be nominated. Okay, so there are a couple here, not couple, or one page. Okay. All right, tourism, hospitality, building construction, advanced manufacturing, and energy. Now, I don't know how that will go. I think that mostly will be defense manufacturing. Advanced manufacturing generally reflects to defense sector in Australia. Infotech, aged care, services, disability services, agriculture, aquaculture, transport, and logistics. Okay, so that's it. That's all the priority industry category for Tasmanian graduates. And let's look at the Tasmanian occupation list. Let's magnify that a bit. Now, let's just scroll down to actually see how many are actually out there. There's actually a lot. There's 10 pages. So let's look at the first bit. Occupation therapist, physio, nurses, okay, building. So that's for the high demand occupation, the green one. Okay, they demand those ones. Now the blue one, building construction trades, project builder, construction estimator, motor mechanic, diesel, fabricator, fitters, bricklayer, stonemason, carpenter, joiner, glazier, roof tiler, drainer, gas fitter, electricians, cabinet maker, health community, nurse, clinical. Now bear in mind this will change over time. As you see, the status said open now. It may be closed, whatever the day they announce it. Medical people, I think they cover most of them, as they will really need all the medical professional there. Hospitality, a lot of people are in this category. Cafe, restaurant manager, baker, pastry cook, chef and cook, engineer, including architects, landscape architect, graphic designer, multimedia, civil engineer, geotechnical, structural quantity surveyor, transport engineer, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, production, architectural draftsperson. That's interesting. Agriculture, all the farmers, and consultant, agriculture consultant. Education, they only like the lecturer and early childhood, so there's no secondary and primary teacher there. Others, supply chain manager, QA manager, dog handler. Interesting. How can you get a TRA assessment on this? I'm not too sure. Gardener and hairdresser. Okay, so that's the Tasmania's skill occupation list. Let's jump into subclass 491 quickly. Now 491, as I said, that will get you 15 points. You get 5 years of visa, and during the 5 years you need to at least gain annual income of 53,900. 3 years, then you'll be able to transfer yourself into a permanent residency under the subclass of 191. How to apply? Let's go in there. The eligibility page. Let's have a look. Important information. So this is all the same as previous. Now 491, positive attribute, how they will consider. I think this is more very relevant and close to what we had for 190. So they will consider NSCO 1 and 2 first. Rare unique skills, specialize in health. Again, you're going to be TSOL. Employment directly, and you have been living in 3 years in Tasmania. Bridging visa, again, that's the same as previous. Okay, let's go into Tasmania Graduates. So if you study before 30th of June 2021, you gotta study there for 40 weeks, so 1 year again. So that's the same as before. That's a very minimum required for study 1 year, but study 1 year doesn't get you a Australian study requirement of that extra 5 points from your EOI. Again, you got to live for 1 year, of course. You study there 1 year, so that's taking an opportunity. A lot of people comes to say, oh look, that's great, so let's just study 1 year of cookery and see how it goes. Now the problem with study 1 year is not a problem. The problem is you don't get a 485 graduate work visa, so you cannot accumulate your work experiences. Thus, you cannot get skill assessment. If you cannot get skill assessment, then everything is wasted. We're talking to the air, so that's not going to work. Now, if you study after 30th of June, you must complete a course of study, obtain letter of completion, 40 weeks again, okay, minimum. Although that's a minimum, but generally I will consider. I'll really recommend people study at least 2 years, so you can get yourself into a PSW, and plus it's regional. You get 3 years of work visa after graduation, so that will work better. Okay. Again, they're talking about. I think this is the same. They're talking about priority industry training development areas, and also the TSOL. Now, nomination category 2 generally are mapping out to the employer skilled person. So you got to be in TSOL and you got to work at least 6 months full time. Okay, you got to have a contract, employment in a position of skill level 4 and 5 purpose set unless the employment is ongoing, and all these kind of stuff. Although they recommend people to be at the NSCO 1 and 2, but again 4 and 5 they may take it, but very limited circumstances. Okay. Now, industry specific training now has to be at least 20 hours per week. An area with a population center more than 5,000 people, Hobart, all these little towns. You can check it out. It's generally around the seaboard of Tasmania. Okay. Again, please know all these supermarket and things like that or takeaway they will not consider at all. Okay. Interesting. Overseas applicant. Okay. Now, a lot of people are asking for all of other states like Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia and Western Australia, are they open for offshore? Now, very limited circumstances, but Tasmania will take the first bite of it. The nomination category 3A, they're taking on overseas applicant, but it has to be in the TSOL. So TSOL is what we have just shown you here. You may want to download that too. To be considered for this category, you must be invited to apply to meet all these following. So you must be in the TSOL, and then you need to be taking IELTS tests, and other things required. Let's jump in there and have a look. Off list nomination. From time to time, respond to industry demand. This will be actually hard. I'm not gonna spend too much on time because if you put too much hope on this kind of stuff, you basically just gonna break your dream. Okay, category 3A. This basically is an invitation for people to apply offshore. If you're in the TSOL occupation, you are welcome to put your interest registration for the state of Tasmania. The category 3A application process, you cannot apply this category being invited by Migration Tasmania. So again, you got to be in TSOL, do your EOI and things, and that's it. Okay, obviously applicant job offer requirement. So you need to get a job offer. That's what they're trying to say. Okay, that's the same as before. I don't think there's too much of differences here. The contract has to be at least 12 months, and that's it. That's what they and the meeting the market salary rate. Okay, now families, category 4. To be considered, categories should be applying outside Tasmania. Now I'm gonna do a final summarize at the end of this video because reading through this is easy, but getting it mapped out is a bit hard. If you got family who are permanent resident or citizen, at least 12 months in Tasmania, they can actually go through here either through 491. So they gotta be parent, brother, sister, child, aunt, uncle, and grandparents, and that's basically it. If you do have those one. Now, small business owner, that's the interesting part. Okay. To be considered on this one, applicant must provide comprehensive business. Again, wow, I hate that. I mean, No other state will actually require comprehensive business plan. I'm not too sure why Tasmania will do that. I think the reason is because the economy is rather small. They really want you to make sure that you're doing the right thing. You don't want to go there and lose all your money. So they want your comprehensive business plan, ensure that you can make money afterwards. You don't lose a lot of money. So franchise, a part owner, or passive business investment are not acceptable. Okay, so this is the same as Queensland. Okay, service station, massage clinic, taxi, Uber is not supported in this category. And gotta be helpful in business Tasmania, small business showcase, fair work, and all that. So there's no relaxation here, unfortunately. You gotta provide comprehensive business plan. That for me, that's a bit hard. Okay, now moving onwards, that's EOI and document required. I'm not gonna go through because that's gonna be the same as 190. So let's summarize this. Now, subclass 491 and 190 first for the state of Tasmania, basically seeking for people who are in those priority industry and who has been picking up 491 while Tasmania government think, well, why don't we just give you 190? And some of them are required to be in the Tasmania's occupations skill occupation list. Okay, so that's 190. So the difference between 190 and 491 is 491 gives a much larger scope of options that you can pick. So you can be family related, you can be at work. Now, while 190, there's only two. One is graduate and one is work. Now, 491 provided graduates, Tasmania graduates, work, family, and business related, and also offshore. They open up for options there. So although there's a lot of complication there, now that's the reason I'm doing this video. If you do have any other question, why don't you leave a comment right down below, and make sure you subscribe to my channel, and also perhaps you want to attend to that webinar. If you got further question, more than welcome to leave a comment right down below. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.